Hello friends, today I am here with you looking particularly tired to try out a, new's the wrong word, new-ish, recently went viral on TikTok kind of technique. Jordan Liberty, I believe, is the artist that actually got this started off. He's very talented, very known within the community, but basically he has a certain technique that he uses to kind of prep the skin to make the makeup last longer, look better, look smoother, and all that fun stuff. I've seen mixed things on how it goes depending on your skin type. I know like Raw Beauty Christie and Nicole Concilio weren't huge fans of this technique. I can see a lot of people with oily skin really loving this technique. However, I'm like right in the middle. I'm not super oily and I'm not super dry. So I just kind of wanted to try it out and see how it goes, and I figured I would try it out on camera. So with that, I have already done my skincare. The first step for him is moisturize, so I did bring in just like a lightweight moisturizer just to follow the steps. So I'm going to be popping on just a little bit of the Tatcha water cream just to hydrate. Go around my eyebrows because I already did my eyebrows off camera. Actually, if you want to know how I did my brows, you can check out my last video. I can leave that linked for you guys to take a peek. We're moisturized. From there, step 2, according to Jordan's Instagram, is to powder. So, I grabbed my KVD Beauty powder to do that with because I wanted one that wasn't like super matte. I don't love to be super matte, so I figured one that had more of like a satin finish would be well suited. So I'm just going to take a fluffy brush. I've got like a little Morphe E4 in here with me. You would normally use this for blush or contour, but it's fluffy enough that I just don't want it to pick up too much product. And then I'm just going to kind of dunk in and just kind of tap it off on the cap. And I'll start in my T-zone. If I were to get oily, that's where it would happen. And I'm going to pick up a little bit of this at a time. The whole purpose of this step isn't to like bake your face underneath your foundation. It's just to give you like a light barrier that'll soak up any extra oils and all that fun stuff before it can break through your makeup. For the sake of experimentation, I'm going to put a little bit underneath my eyes, just because I'm curious. I don't know how all that's going to go. Step 2 is complete. Yeah, see, I don't look too matte, which is exactly what I was looking for. I still have like a little bit of shine to my skin. I don't really feel like tacky or sticky. It feels just kind of like smooth. Step 3 is going to be setting spray. Now, in his Instagram post, and I know a lot of people also just enjoy the Urban Decay All-Nighter setting spray. I'm not a huge fan of that for regular use just because of the alcohol content. So I have a similar one. I have my Cover FX High Performance Setting Spray, which I think does an equally as fantastic job, and it's alcohol free. Okay, so we're gonna spray. Oh, it's squirted. Hang on, let's see. There we go. Okay, let's try again. It's still like squirting a little bit. I could feel it, but it's all good. We're gonna let that dry. We are dry. I have 2 different primers. I'm gonna do one on each side of my face. I brought my Smashbox Mindful 5 and I also grabbed my little mini of the Tatcha Silk Canvas. I figured I would try both because one's more pore filling and one's more hydrating, just to see if there was any difference. So I'm starting up with a little bit of the Tatcha, and I'm just going to start that in the center of my face and work out. Oh, okay. That actually went on pretty well. I was worried that it was going to pill, but it did not, so that's good. And then Smashbox on the other side. Let's do it like an influencer. Let's just do that. And then we'll rub that in. I mean, this side of my face is like obviously dewier because we did a more hydrating primer. Looks kind of like how my face would normally look before I did my makeup. So let's see. I've got my Smashbox Synchro Skin here with me. I'm hoping it's going to be a better match today than in the last video, because my self-tan is like there but like mostly gone. So it should be much better. Take some of that. I've just got an Hourglass, the one that came out with the Vanish foundation. I'm not sure if these have names. This doesn't have a name on it, but I actually really like it for foundation. So we're going to go in with that. It's like a tiny bit light, but no biggie. Okay. So far, at least on this side of my face, it's looking really good. I'll bring it in a little bit so you guys can see. Yeah. Looks like overall pretty smooth. I've got like tons of texture and all that fun stuff going on over here right now. But it's covering pretty well. I've got a fuzzy on my face. Ooh. Yeah, but I'd say it's covering pretty well. It doesn't look cakey anywhere. Like the side of my nose doesn't look offensive or anything like that. So that's quite good. I actually feel like it almost looks better than in my original video where I tried it this way. So that's good. I'm bringing you guys back out. There we go. Okay. So we'll keep going on my chin. I'll do the other side of my face and then we'll kind of zoom back in and see. Both sides of my face are done. I'm going to bring this in again. Boop. So you guys can see the other side. So to me, this side does look heavier. I don't know how obvious it will be on the camera. My nose looks like it's in a state. It looks really dry right over here. And actually up on my forehead, it's a little bit patchy because it actually started to pill and like pull off. I'm going to blame the primer for that more so because this side of my forehead went on perfectly. So I think the slip from the Smashbox primer fared a lot better than the more pore filling kind of properties from Natasha. But yeah, overall I noticed this side wasn't blending as easily. Looks a little bit heavier overall. And even like my nose from one side to the other, this side does look better than this side by quite a bit. So I would say currently I'm still a fan of this technique, but only with a more hydrating primer. But let's zoom back out. So we still have concealer to do. So I'm actually going to pop on a little bit of the Smashbox Hydrating Camo Concealer. I think I'll be a bigger fan of this in the shade Light Peach, just to do a little corrective action here. So just right on the inner corner, right on the outer corner there. And I've got my Blendiful to kind of tap that in. Oh, pretty good. I feel like it has a really similar coverage to the matte, but I like the texture of this thousands of times better. It just sits a lot nicer on the skin than the matte one does. Again, I can see oily skin's really, really liking the matte one, but it's not my vibe, I will say. So I'm just going to tap, and I am pulling it all the way up into my inner corner just to conceal as much of my anemia as we can. And right out here, meeting them together. And I have already tried this concealer as well, so I do know how it looks without powder underneath my eyes. And I would say right now it looks drier. It does look drier than it normally would. So I think doing the powder technique underneath the eyes, again, probably wouldn't recommend. Unless maybe you're very oily under there. But I know the under eye area is a lot more delicate. That skin ages quite quickly and it's quite fragile. But I'm just going to take a little bit of my Smashbox concealer here just to do like a little highlighting action here. Fantastic. And then we're just going to follow the same technique of patting all that in together as well. Alrighty, concealer is blended in. Yeah, the concealer does still look like a little heavier than it normally would. Not by too much, but still overall, definitely more so a fan of this side with the hydrating primer for sure. I am just going to set my under eyes and like a little tiny bit in the center of my face like I normally would, I'm not going to powder my entire face just because I normally don't powder my entire face. And I don't want to change my routine too much to how I would normally do it, just to kind of see how well this would work for me personally. So I'm just going to give a little tap out like that, and then I'm just going to pop into my Kat Von D. Whatever's left from that is going to go on my nose. And then I'm going to grab a little bit more for my chin. I'm just going to let my smile lines kind of hang out. And then give it a little bit of a tap. And set just the center of my forehead here. So we're not like overly shiny. Just like that. But that's all I would normally set. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go finish off the rest of my makeup. And then I'm going to come back to kind of give everybody my final thoughts. Alrighty, we are back. Makeup is done. Very dramatic eyeballs. I can film a tutorial if anybody would like. I did try earlier and it did not work out. My camera was not with me. But overall, I did set my face with a little bit of setting spray. I used my Glam Glow Setter because my skin was looking like a little bit dry and a little bit like it needed a hug. And I would say, we'll look up close. My nose looks the worst, I would say, out of everything. Mainly just around my nostrils. It's just like a little offensive. And my under eyes also look awful. I'll zoom the camera in so you guys can see how beautiful I am. Hello. Yes. So around my nose, like just around the nostrils here, looks a lot cakier than it normally would. So that's not quite the business. Because, you know. And underneath my eyes, I don't know if you guys can tell, just looks very dry and very textured. And that concealer is really hydrating. I've used it before. I'm comfortable with it. So I know that it's not the concealer. I know it's the fact that I put powder underneath. My smile lines are creasing like they normally would. So in terms of longevity there, nothing has changed. So it didn't improve my situation there at all. It's all kind of creasing at its normal rate. I would say my forehead looks like my forehead. My forehead looks pretty normal. None of my breakouts are enhanced, as I mentioned earlier. I have some texture over here. None of it's popping out more than it normally would, but it's also not like camouflaged more than it normally would be. Overall, I still think this is a good technique in terms of increasing your longevity for your makeup. I don't think I recommend using the Tatcha primer specifically with this technique. I know Jordan mentioned that you can use pore smoothing primers with this. I'm not sure if maybe because it just the texture of the primer or something just didn't quite vibe with everything else and that caused that pilling. But I'd maybe try something like the Tarte smoothing primer as well, like the Timeless primer, or even like your traditional Smashbox photo finish, something more so along those lines that have a little bit more slip. May do a little bit of a better job. I do really like the Smashbox on this side, just like that lightweight hydrating primer, although for an oily skin that may not be exactly what you need, or if pores are your concern, then again it's probably not going to be exactly what you need at the same time. But this is also similar to a technique that I've already been using on clients. Using powder underneath foundation is a technique that's been around for a really long time. In my Sephora days, it's something that I would use fairly often on clients that were extremely oily, and even like in my bridal work and stuff like that. And also actually on clients that, especially this is a good tip too, if you have one of those noses that things just don't want to stick to, and if you have this issue, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Everything's just too smooth, your nose is really oily, like for whatever reason, like foundation just like won't vibe. If you powder your nose first and then put your foundation on, it'll give your foundation a little something to stick to, and it'll actually stay on your nose and apply onto your nose a lot nicer than the way I'd be applying right now. I had multiple clients with that issue that I taught them that trick, and they were in my chair completely astounded at how well it worked. So applying your powder underneath your foundation isn't necessarily new, but it is a really, really great technique, and it was still interesting for me to try out myself with these added steps. And same with like sandwiching your setting spray before and after your foundation, even if you don't want to do the powder. Making that little setting sandwich, if you will still increase the longevity of your product regardless. So either way, I would say that it's a really, really great technique to use and a really good thing to have in your arsenal. You may not need to do it every day, but if you have something like super nice or super important going on or something like that, you may as well, you know, just so you know that everything's going to look really, really good. So again, I would recommend doing this technique. I don't think it's for everybody. I think maybe if you're dry, I would genuinely just skip the powder and kind of sandwich your setting spray. But I feel like if you're oily, this is definitely who it's more so geared towards. Even my normal skin isn't quite vibing with it. Alright friends, so with that, we will bring this video to a close. If you are interested in the rest of the makeup that is on my face currently, all my product details will be posted onto my Instagram, so you guys can go check that out. And also, if you're interested particularly in my bronze, blush, and highlight scenario, that's actually going to be in my next video where we're trying out a new product there. So thank you guys for watching. If you could please like this video to let me know that you liked it, subscribe, hit the bell so you know when my next upload is going to be, and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye guys!